Rory McIlroy just made a move so shocking, so completely out of character, that the entire golf world is frozen trying to process what it means. Contradicts everything Rory stood for over the past 3 years, everything he's said publicly, everything he's fought to protect. And the way he did it, without warning, without explanation, has players, officials, and fans asking the same terrifying question. Did we ever really know Rory McIlroy at all? What did he actually do that has the PGA Tour in emergency damage control mode? Why are his closest allies feeling blindsided and betrayed? And how did one decision turn golf's most trusted voice into its most controversial figure overnight? Let's be brutally clear about who Rory McIlroy has been for the past 3 years. He wasn't just another PGA Tour player collecting paychecks and playing tournaments. He was the voice, the defender, the guy who stood up when LIV Golf launched and started poaching the tour's biggest stars. While others stayed quiet or gave diplomatic non-answers, Rory of the PGA Tour during its most turbulent period in history. When Phil Mickelson left for LIV, Rory criticized him publicly. When Dustin Johnson signed, Rory questioned his loyalty. When Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka followed, Rory positioned himself as the alternative, the player who valued tradition and legacy over guaranteed contracts. He attended player meetings, gave impassioned speeches, and literally shaped PGA Tour policy decisions through his role on the board. Rory McIlroy wasn't just defending the tour. He was the tour's human shield against LIV's Saudi billions. That's why what just happened feels like a complete betrayal to everyone who believed in him. According to multiple sources, including respected insiders with direct knowledge of the situation, Rory McIlroy has been in advanced conversations with LIV Golf about a potential move. Not casual discussions, not exploratory talks. Advanced negotiations that include contract figures, equity stakes, and timeline discussions. The reported offer is absolutely staggering, somewhere in the range of $850 million, which would make it one of the largest contracts in professional sports history. But here's what makes this so much worse than just another player chasing money. Rory hasn't publicly acknowledged any of this. He's continued giving interviews where he talks about the importance of PGA Tour unity and competitive integrity. He's attended tour events acting like everything is normal while simultaneously negotiating with the league he spent years calling illegitimate. The duplicity is what's shocking people more than the actual possibility of him leaving. If you're stunned by this betrayal, smash that like button and subscribe, because what Rory did next is even more unbelievable. The timeline makes this especially damning. Just weeks ago, Rory gave an interview where he talked about how important it was for top players to stay loyal to the PGA Tour during ongoing negotiations with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. He specifically mentioned that players leaving now would weaken the tour's bargaining position and hurt everyone who'd stayed loyal. He positioned himself as the guardian of tour solidarity, and the entire time he was saying those things publicly, he was apparently having private conversations with LIV about his own potential departure. PGA Tour officials are reportedly furious and feeling completely blindsided. Multiple sources describe emergency meetings held within the past 48 hours, with Commissioner Jay Monahan and other tour leadership trying to figure out how to handle the situation if Rory actually leaves. The panic isn't just about losing a star player, it's about losing the player who became the tour's most visible and credible defender. If Rory McIlroy, of all people, decides that LIV is the right move, what does that say about the tour's future and viability? Behind the scenes, players are reacting with a mixture of tour, partially because of Rory's passionate defense, feel betrayed and manipulated. One veteran player, speaking anonymously to a golf journalist, said that Rory convinced people to turn down massive LIV offers by appealing to their loyalty and integrity, and now he's considering taking the exact deal he told everyone else to reject. That's not just hypocrisy. That's deliberately sabotaging other people's financial opportunities while protecting DeChambeau, who endured years of criticism from Rory for joining. LIV posted a cryptic message on social media that was clearly immediately went viral, with thousands of comments interpreting it as Bryson taking a victory lap over Rory's apparent hypocrisy. Phil Mickelson, who Rory publicly criticized more harshly than almost anyone for joining LIV, gave an interview where he was asked about the reports. Phil's response was measured but cutting. He said that everyone has to make their own decisions based on their own circumstances, and that maybe some people are learning that the world isn't as black and white as they thought it was. The implication was crystal clear. Rory judged everyone else for doing exactly what he's now considering. What makes this situation even more complicated is Rory's relationship with Tiger Woods. Tiger has remained firmly aligned with the PGA Tour throughout the entire El Aviv conflict, serving on the policy board and actively working to strengthen the tour's position. Rory and Tiger have been publicly unified during this entire saga, presenting themselves as the tour's leadership partnership. If Rory leaves now, it doesn't just damage his own credibility, it potentially damages Tiger's as well by association. Reports suggest that Tiger reached out to Rory directly after hearing about the LIV negotiations, trying to understand what was happening and whether Rory was actually considering leaving. Sources describe the conversation as tense and emotional, with Tiger expressing disappointment that Rory would even entertain LIV's offer after everything they'd both said publicly. The fracture in their relationship, if it's real, represents one of the most significant shifts in golf's power dynamics in years. The fan reaction has been absolutely brutal and divided. Some fans are defending Rory, saying he has every right to maximize his earnings and that people change their minds when circumstances change. They argue that $850 million is generational wealth that nobody should be expected to turn down, regardless of what they said 3 years ago. But the majority response has been anger and accusations of hypocrisy. Social media is flooded with compilations of Rory's anti-LIV quotes paired with news of his current negotiations, the contrast making him look like either a liar or someone with no actual principles. What's driving Rory's apparent change of heart is the question everyone's asking. Some analysts suggest it's purely financial, that $850 million is simply too much money to refuse regardless of prior positions. Others point to the shifting political landscape, noting that the PGA Tour and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund are in ongoing negotiations themselves, which has blurred the moral lines that once seemed clear. If the tours are potentially merging anyway, Rory might be thinking, why not get paid while that process unfolds? But there's a darker theory circulating among insiders. Some believe Rory's experiencing genuine burnout from carrying the PGA Tour's flag for 3 years, dealing with constant media pressure, player criticism, and the weight of being everyone's moral compass. The emotional toll of that role, combined with watching players he criticized get richer while he defended a tour that hasn't always supported him publicly, might have finally broken his resolve. The most damaging aspect of this entire situation is that Rory hasn't addressed any of it publicly yet. No statement, no explanation, no acknowledgement that conversations are happening. The silence is deafening and makes everything worse because it allows speculation and anger to build without any counter-narrative. If Rory came out and explained his thinking honestly, even if people disagreed, at least there would be transparency. The secrecy makes it feel like he knows what he's doing is indefensible. What happens next will define Rory McIlroy's legacy permanently. If he ultimately rejects LIV's offer and stays with the PGA Tour, this will be remembered as a moment of temptation that he overcame, though the damage to his credibility and relationships might never fully heal. If he accepts and joins LIV, he becomes golf's most dramatic turncoat, the player who spent years judging others before doing exactly what he condemned them for. There's no outcome where Rory emerges from this situation with his reputation intact. Rory McIlroy just made a shocking move by entering negotiations with the league he spent years calling illegitimate. And whether he ultimately goes through with it or most respected voice just became its most controversial figure. The PGA Tour is in damage control mode. Players feel betrayed and fans are questioning whether anything Rory ever said actually meant something or if it was all just positioning until the right price came along. This isn't just a business decision. This is a character test that Rory's currently failing in the most public way imaginable.